Okay, we're getting towards the end of 2024, which means that most of the running shoes that are going to release this year already have. It's the 22nd of December right now. So I think it's about time that we put through my best picks of 2024, my running shoe awards, if you want to call it that. So I've kind of been thinking for a while how I'm going to do this in the way that makes the most sense. I've seen some people do like their top 10 shoes or get real specific with like best value, best high cushion daily trainer. Not really a fan of that, so I'm going to break it down into what makes sense for me, which is to give you kind of a few categories in my rotation which I use regularly, and then I'm going to give you my top 3 picks for each. So I'll run you through my top daily trainers, my top long run shoes, my top 5 and 10k races, half and full marathon races, and then we'll give a bit of love to the trail shoes as well. Going to try to keep this thing fairly streamlined, keep it on track, because I know there's a good potential that I could ramble and bring a lot of shoes into this, which probably don't need to be talked about. There's a lot of good shoes that got released this year. It was pretty tight, and to be fair, my picks on these shoes, the order in which they appear, and also the kind of shoes themselves could change within a week or so. So it is very tight. Just because I don't include a shoe doesn't mean it's not good or that I didn't enjoy it. It's kind of, small margins, but these are my picks as of this moment right now. I'll start with my daily trainers, which for me is anything that I'm going to use on a daily basis, as the name suggests, for runs from half an hour to an hour, hour and 10 in marathon training. My kind of criteria for a good daily trainer is something that is reasonably light, simple. I want it to be semi-flexible. I don't want it to be too stiff or rocketed or high stacked. And I want it to have a little bit of an ability to pick up the pace if I want to. I don't want something that's heavy or clumpy. I'm not a huge fan of this kind of max cushion daily trainer. That's just not my preference. Like, I can appreciate it, but not my preference there. So yeah, I want something which is fairly nimble and can kind of pick up the pace if I want to. So with that in mind, my 3 picks for this category are going to start with the Evo SL in 3rd spot, which I think is probably going to be one of the most popular shoes next year once Adidas actually get their act together and get a few pairs out there. I know some people are pretty pissed off about the marketing, the fact that it's dragged on for 2 months and now it's delayed here in Australia. I can understand it. You can be annoyed at the marketing, but this is a fantastic shoe. It's smooth, it's comfortable, it's got structure to it as well. It doesn't bottom out. I find it to be just very easy to use on a daily basis. Super lightweight as well, 243 grams. I really noticed that I could pick my heels up a fair bit more, kind of get my leg lift up, which is always a nice feeling, kind of ticking the legs over for those daily miles. The up is probably the one weak point for this shoe, but $240 truly is fantastic. Don't hold the marketing against it. If you get an opportunity to grab a pair, would highly recommend. Second spot for me, by a small margin, I am going to pick the Nike Pegasus Plus, which is a shoe that I was not expecting to like, let alone have it in my top couple of shoes for the year. This was probably my favorite daily trainer for most of the year until it was overtaken in the last month or so. I just really enjoy how simple, nimble, and kind of grounded this shoe feels. I really feel like I can get a kind of feel for the road, feel a little bit more in touch, and really smooth out my stride, kind of make things efficient. I really feel like whenever I wear this shoe, I'm really working on my form. Because it is a little bit harsh, it doesn't have heaps of protection, doesn't have a rocker or much squish to it. You really have to concentrate on hitting the ground properly. Not forgiving, it's not going to do the running for you, but that's something that I kind of enjoy about it. It's just got enough squish kind of protect you from the road, a little bit of bounce back, and it just feels smooth. This is one of those ones that is quite subjective. I wouldn't say that this is a shoe that is objectively good. I wouldn't recommend it to many people either. I think $260 is a bit overpriced, but for me and my running, the kind of, irrational way that running shoes work, this one has just come out very well for me. Then finally, my top pick for 2024 for daily trainers came very late, and that is the Mizuno Neo Zen. This is the most fun that I've had in a daily trainer probably ever, especially a non-plated daily trainer. This supercritical nitrogen-infused TPU foam is magic. It's probably the softest experience that I've had that doesn't end up becoming mushy. I know there's a lot of shoes out there which have that squish, but none of them have the same level of response once you compress the foam. It's just a really bouncy, nimble, flexible daily experience, which means that you can pick up the pace towards the end of the runs if you want to, but it is just so fun and protective underfoot that, I think this is going to sell extremely well. Quick side tangent is that I work in running retail, and I've suggested this shoe to a lot of people who want that kind of all-rounder, versatile, fun daily trainer, positioning it alongside shoes like the Rebel, the Hoka Mark 6, Nova Blast 5 as well. And probably about 4 or 5 different times I've got out all of the different shoes and people have walked away with the Neo Zen. Once you get it on foot, the feel is just magic. So I really encourage you to get in store and try it on. I know some people are pretty put off by the knit upper, but once you feel how it goes underfoot, you're probably going to be able to look past it. $260 as well. I think for the technology, the foam underfoot is good value. This is my top pick for 2024. Moving on to my long run shoes, this is another fairly self-explanatory category. Anything that I'm using for my Saturday or Sunday long run, which can range from 1:20 up to 2 hours and 40 minutes, depending on what time of year it is and what I'm really training towards. Criteria for me for long run shoes is that I need them to be structured, fairly stiff underfoot. I don't want them to bottom out or collapse underfoot, become too soft and mushy. So some of those daily trainers like the Neo Zen feel great up until about the hour mark, but once the foam warms up, you really start to compress it, becomes very, very flexible, and it just requires a little bit more work through your calf, through your foot to really get it to transition through. So I want a bit of extra stiffness. Still want it to be fairly lightweight, still want it to have a bit of pop so I can pick up the pace if I want to, especially during marathon training. So these are the 3 picks which I think satisfy that for me. In third spot, I've got the Puma Deviate Nitro 3, which I think is a bit of an underrated pick right now. It doesn't feel great on step-in or in the first couple of runs for that matter. It definitely needs a bit of time to break in, for the plate to flex up a bit, for the foams to soften up. But once you put a bit of work into it, kind of chew up the foam a bit, it really opens up and gives a very smooth, refined, kind of snappy ride, which just works very nicely over those longer runs. I do think it has pace as well, like some people can definitely use it as a session shoe, but for me, I really enjoyed the fact that it felt firm in the first hour of the run, and then it would soften up as it warmed up, flexed up as I mentioned, and then by the end, it would be much more comfortable and kind of have a bit more bounce to it as well. Fairly grounded as well, so I never felt like I was kind of unstable. Do still feel like I'm kind of in control of the shoe. The outsole as well, big plus for me. Running on gravel roads, Puma grip is fantastic. The one knock on this shoe is that the heel lockdown is a bit sloppy, but that is something that you can work through. I would suggest putting some kind of thicker, more stiff laces in here, give a bit more of a secure fit. Bit of a narrow toe box as well, but the stretchy mesh upper means that if you have a normal size foot, definitely can work. $250, I think is great value. This is my third pick for the year. Then we got another late entry, one that I was again not expecting. Nike are doing very well this year with the Zoom Fly 6. This is probably not the fastest speed shoe out there. I probably wouldn't use it for anything above tempo or threshold interval, kind of extended intervals like 3 or 4 Ks at a time. But for long runs, it's very, very nice. You've got plenty of protection underfoot, 42 mil of foam in the heel. I think what they've done right this time around is the combination of foams, having an actual slab of ZoomX under the foot and then actually using an EVA, which isn't rubbish, has made a really nice combination, which is both soft with a bit of structure, bit of propulsion, and I think that the tuning of this fly plate with a bit of flex, but a good level of stiffness through the forefoot just really gives a nice direction to the ride. Upper is fantastic as well, rounded toe box, very comfy heel counter. Nike have knocked this one out of the park for $260 as a long run shoe, as a tempo shoe, as a potential marathon racer for a lot of people. I think that Nike have absolutely smashed it. And then finally, my top pick for long run shoes for 2024, a bit of a surprise, we've got the On Cloudmonster Hyper, which I know is a bit of a divisive shoe. Some people hate it, others really enjoy it. For me, as a mid to forefoot striker, landing on top of this PEBA foam in the forefoot just feels like magic. I really like the combination that they've got here with the cloud pods in the heel, giving it a bit more structure and stiffness, wrapping in underneath the PEBA, again, giving it that kind of direction, a bit more stiffness, not letting it kind of get too mushy. And I think it really works nicely. A bit of a similar sentiment here in the fact that it starts off feeling quite stiff, but then over the course of the run, once things warm up, once you put a bit of compression through it, it does open up and become a bit more appealing, a bit more smooth. And I do think that it kind of gains a bit of pace as you go, which works well with the timing of my runs. I think that the timing of the bounce as well for me works really nicely. I feel like I get the full compression of the foam and the rebound isn't so immediate or direct like I can find in the Super Blast, meaning that I can kind of, get the right timing in my stride, which feels just right. Fantastic upper as well, nice rounded toe box, fantastic tongue. Top 2 eyelets are the only ones that I have to touch to get the perfect fit. Awesome heel counter as well. It's kind of bizarre that On can make really, really nice uppers in some of their daily trainers, and then they absolutely shit the bed with shoes like the Cloudburn Strike, which are much more expensive, but that's neither here nor there. This is a fantastic shoe. Again, one of my favorites of the year. Really, really enjoyed this shoe. Moving on to the fun stuff, we're going to chat through my top racing shoe picks for the year. I don't really have a proper session or speed shoe category to speak of. I use most of my racing shoes for my sessions, also the ones that I'm trying to review, get Ks into. I can't wait around all year to do 6 or 7 races in 10 or 12 different shoes that I'm trying to review. math doesn't work there. I'm pretty comfortable using racing shoes for my sessions. I know some people are horribly resistant to the idea, but I just think that as long as you're getting variation in your shoe rotation, varying the load, the flexibility, different stacks, different foams, you're going to be okay. Your body's adaptable. People will in the same breath criticize high stacked rocket racing shoes, but then they go around running in high stacked, stiff daily trainers, which are working in quite similar ways. Being cautious can be a good thing, and as I said, moderation is key. I do most of my training in flexible, non-plated shoes, but it has been 5 years now. We're not seeing an epidemic of injuries as much as people claim there is. People are using super shoes in their regular running to great success, so I don't think that we need to be kind of going on this witch hunt against super shoes. I digress. Either way, these are my top racing shoes. We'll start with my 5 and 10K races. We'll go with the Takumi Sen 10 for my third pick, which is a very nice, explosive, direct, snappy racing shoe, which keeps you in touch with the ground. Definitely doesn't have a lot of protection or comfort kind of built in, very stripped down upper. The foam is quite firm. You definitely need to kind of punch into the road, really commit to compressing it to get any response out of it. But for a 5 and 10K shoe, it's kind of ticking a lot of boxes. I don't think this is a kind of universal shoe. It's quite narrow. It is quite firm. Most people are going to find this too harsh. But for me, I just really enjoy something which is kind of just ruthless and really wants you to go fast. Then my second pick, which is kind of strictly a 5K shoe, I'd say, is the Chaodan Xinghong Racer, which is one of these hyper light shoes. It's 110 grams in my men's size 10.5. Literally weighs nothing. You can see the upper is kind of like almost transparent, looks like it would melt if you kind of mixed it in water. The foam is quite soft, but actually has a good level of resilience, doesn't bottom out or kind of die off after one run, and you can see the rubber is pretty much painted on. It felt fantastic. I used it for a park run, and the kind of feeling of weightlessness underfoot was just bizarre. I had the amount of protection that I needed, had a good level of bounce, probably to the same level as maybe the original Vaporfly, I'd say, like the Vaporfly 1 or Vaporfly 2. I was getting that kind of level of response, nothing crazy. But yeah, for that weight and for the kind of change in form that I had, I could pick my feet up so much easier. I just felt so free in my movement. I really think this can work as, yeah, a top contender for that 5K distance. I don't trust it over the 10K just yet. I do think that the foam would probably start to compress a little bit. Half and full marathon are out of the question. I would probably actually kill this shoe by the end of one of those races. But yeah, 5K, this would probably be my top pick. This next one is good for 5 and 10, but this would be the top pick for the 5. And then my top pick for 5 and 10K shoe is going to be the Asics Metaspeed Edge Paris. Very snappy, aggressive shoe here. Good tick forward, really encourages me to kind of pick up my cadence, really get the legs turning over quite quickly. Didn't enjoy the Sky Paris, which should suit me as someone who runs with a cadence of about 170, 175 during races, but this one has turned out to be much nicer, actually giving me a bit of rocker through the forefoot. Resilient foam, definitely not comfort focused as most of these shoes aren't, but yeah, has enough protection to get through. Really punchy, resilient foam, really enjoyed it. I think for $330, this is a fantastic performer, but I do think that it has been maybe a smidge overhyped for the weight. 200 grams is good, but yeah, you're not really getting any huge performance advantage for 15 or 20 grams difference when you might be getting some more cushion, more protection in shoes which are a bit heavier. So yeah, if you want that kind of aggressive 5 and 10K racing shoe, I'd pretty much guarantee this is going to be one of the fastest shoes out there. But yeah, if you want something more protective, you're kind of more a comfort focused runner, might not be it. Then we got my 3 marathon shoes, half and full marathon shoes, which are all very similar in feel. They all have good squishy forefoots, quite bouncy. They have the protection to get me through the entire race distance. My third pick is the Chaodan Feiying Plaid, which is a Chinese brand racing shoe, the same as the Xinghong Racer actually. And this is a whole lot of fun. Very, very wide base, TPEE foam, very, very soft and compressive. Quite similar, in fact, to the Mizuno TPU foam, but maybe softer. So it's one of those shoes that feels unnaturally soft, but still has a really good level of response. Lower drop means you get plenty of protection under the forefoot. The upper lockdown I found it to be pretty good. Maybe a little bit of heel slip, but overall, just a really well put together shoe that you can pick up for about $220 that I think performs on the same level as shoes like the Alphafly and these other 2 picks as well. Really, really enjoy this one. Can't wait for the Feiying Plaid 2. My second pick for half and marathon shoes needs a bit of a caveat. If I got the right size in this shoe, I probably would have worn it for my marathon and it would probably be my top pick. But for now, it's going to sit in second spot, and that is the Adidas Adios Pro 4. This is a fantastic update. They fixed everything that needed to be fixed, upgraded a few things that I didn't even think of. We've got a soft, smooth, comfortable upper, reasonably flexible through the heel counter now, so less risk of blisters. The lacing setup is much nicer, much more adaptable. The light lock technology as well just means that the fit is more adaptable. It's not kind of one way or the other as it was with the Adios Pro 3. If you laced it up too tight, it would stay too tight. If you laced it up loose, you were gone. So this one, you can kind of, lace it up and it will stretch or give, or it will kind of, have that little bit of elasticity to kind of allow you to be either side of the perfect fit and still be secure. The update to the foam is very, very good as well. It's a little bit softer, but it still retains that good level of meaty, explosive response, good amount of protection underneath the forefoot, and this 60% rocker that they're using, I think is very, very nice as well. I feel like more of my energy is being converted into forward motion than before, which kind of like bounced me upwards, which was nice, but this is, a little bit more directed in terms of, propelling me forward. I think for $360 as well, this is a great racing shoe, definitely in the top tier as far as I see it. I will be buying a size 10.5 when I get the opportunity, but for now, this size 10, although a little bit short, is my second pick for the year. Moving on to my top racing shoe pick for the year in the marathon distance, we've got a bit of a contradiction here because it's also one of the worst shoes that I reviewed, and it's the On Cloudboom Strike. The reason I say it's one of the worst is that the upper on this shoe is terrible, the outsole is terrible, but the ride underfoot is so good that it kind of overcomes those flaws to the point where I still want to race in it no matter what. The upper gave me horrible blisters. I had to cut into it with a pair of scissors. The forefoot hold is sloppy. It probably fits a half size long, so my foot was sliding around. The laces are ridiculously long, so you're pretty much tripping over them throughout the race. The outsole gives me zero grip in anything other than completely dry conditions, so I was slipping around in my marathon as well. The durability is not going to be great either. But again, that ride, the pop out of the forefoot due to this bounce board setup, I just think is magic. I do think that it is a bit of a gimmicky thing to have a removable insole, but either way, having your foam up against the foot just makes it so much more comfortable, so much more propulsive. You get that extra 3 or 4 millimeters by removing the Strobel board. I think On know what they're doing. We just need to fix a few other things before this really takes over. I still absolutely love this shoe for the ride underfoot. It's a bit of a love-hate relationship, but that is my top pick for 2024. Giving a bit of love to my trail runner friends, we'll go through 3 picks which I've really enjoyed. Not really going to rank them because different trail shoes for different terrains and different runs and stuff like that, but my daily trainer, my trail trainer for the year is the Tarkine Trail Devil 2. This is a really comfortable, plush, energetic trail runner. Peter infused foam, I think it's a 50-50 blend, so it has a good level of energy return. It's much lighter. This version sheds about 50 grams of weight, which is fantastic, especially through the upper and the outsole, which has kind of been stripped down a little bit. And I think overall, this is a fantastic update. I think it's a fantastic shoe. I think if you wanted one shoe to do all of your running, your training, your long runs, and eventually racing it, it's 270 grams, so it can definitely handle that. I think it's, fantastic from a small Australian brand. Absolutely nailed it. Then we got my kind of long range racing, long run shoe, the Adidas Agravic Terex Speed Ultra. The protection underfoot from this shoe, the kind of smooth rolled through, gentle propulsion is just brilliant. It's got a fairly stable base for me, landing up in the forefoot. If you land in the heel, maybe less so, but it kind of just works perfectly on the trail. It's got a bit of flexibility with their kind of spider plastic plate setup, a bit more adaptable to kind of off-camber terrain, but definitely still suited to smoother stuff for sure. But it has just enough propulsion to kind of keep the legs feeling fresh, enough protection to get you through, but it still has a little bit of a speedy touch, which I just really enjoy. Good weight as well, 270 grams for a trail shoe with this much stack, this much protection is just brilliant. I actually ordered this shoe early from the USA because I wanted to get it on foot before one of my big trail races. Very glad that I did. This is top tier stuff. And then we've got a bit more of a snappy, nimble racing shoe, probably what I'd use for a more technical race, anything up to about 20 Ks. We've got the Altra Mont Blanc Carbon. First time that I've really put a whole lot of Ks into an Altra shoe. Really enjoyed it. I think the 0 mil drop works the best on the trails when you've kind of got a bit more flexibility, adaptability. It's not so kind of harsh onto the road. And I found that the combination of their Ego Pro foam, which is embedded in here, wrapped up in an EVA frame with a little bit of direction from the carbon plate, It is very flexible. Just kind of gave a really nimble ride, which was very adaptable over kind of highly technical terrain, probably my top pick so far. And I just found it to be, a lot of fun. Definitely work the legs a little bit differently, bit more work for the calf and Achilles, which is not always a bad thing. I think it's good to kind of, again, vary that stimulus. But yeah, really nice snappy racing shoe. Maybe a bit overpriced, maybe a bit niche, but yeah, it's been one of my favorites this year. So there we go. Those are my top picks for 2024 for me. Bit of a subjective video today. Don't go jumping into all of these shoes expecting them to work for you. Definitely some more appealing ones like the Evo SL, Zoom Fly 6, which I think are more likely to work for a wider variety of people. But then equally, there's a couple of shoes which probably won't. Pegasus Plus, Cloudboom Strike have a few features which are a little bit less approachable. So yeah, do your research. Make sure you know what you like before you go and pull the trigger on that purchase. But either way, hopefully this was somewhat useful, somewhat interesting. Going to post a few more videos this week. One about my favorite brand, the one that I think has put out the most consistently good running shoes this year, or at least the ones that kind of suit me. And then I'll also chat about my least favorite shoes this year, the kind of duds which I've hated, didn't like, didn't get along with. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. But for now, that's about it.